Hey everyone, welcome back to the Walk 12 podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube or any of the podcast directories, make sure to do yourself one teeny tiny little favor and make sure to give us a follow. Because I don't want you to miss out on any of the amazing guests I got coming on this year. Without further ado, the guy I got coming on today, he's a guy that I met actually not too long ago. We met at a breakfast mastermind over in Jersey. We were chopping it up about business, AI, and different ways to grow. And since then, we met up one more time on Zoom and had a great conversation, invited him on the podcast. And so, without further ado, Dwayne, for anyone who hasn't had the opportunity, the pleasure to get to know you, to get to meet you yet, man, tell us your quick elevator pitch. Who are you and what do you do?
Hey guys, what's going on? Duane Clarke here with Lifestyle International Realty. Yeah, to answer your question, John, and first and foremost, thank you again for creating this opportunity where I can come out, speak with you again, talk to your audience. We had a great chat in the past, coming up to New Jersey. I am a New Yorker, all right, so it was great to be back in our city. But yeah, I called the Carolinas home. Got my real estate license here 4 years ago, and I've been practicing real estate since. Um, it's just been phenomenal.
Amazing. So, before we get into all the amazing stuff you got cooking up right now with lifestyle and real estate, uh, take us back into the time machine. What was little Dwayne like growing up? Like, were you always, focused on investing in money and doing stuff in business? Like, how was little Dwayne growing up?
Far from it, man. Far from it. I mean, I would say that looking back at little Dwayne back then, I mean, I think he was just a very curious type. He was into books to some degree, but I think he was just really into understanding how things work.
Hmm.
And I think that was always a passion of mine in learning how things work and then how to reverse engineer it, right? Take it apart, put it back together, and now create some kind of mutation of it. And these are things so toys didn't last very long in my household for little Dwayne. Moving forward, I think that's always been my mindset. Like, okay, I don't understand something unless I can reverse engineer
Yeah. Okay, dope. So you grew up and then went to high school, of course. Out of high
it.
school, what was your plans originally? Did you have this thing kind of drawn up, or it was like, what were you originally thinking that your life would
Yeah.
end up looking like?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. I mean, you're growing up in Brooklyn, okay,
Mm-hmm.
in the '90s Brooklyn. Do some quick math, right?
A
Growing up in
lot
'90s
going on.
Brooklyn, a lot going on. You had a lot of some great music at the time, but also you had like some powerful influences at the time as well. Education was always been a paramount fixture in my household, but I would say. For me, it was really a transcending period. I wasn't really sure which direction my life would take me. You don't really have a lot of positive role models, when
Mm-hmm.
you're growing up in, some of these inner cities. And I so happened, by the grace of God, got into a really great high school. And that high school trained me with the mindset that, hey, when you graduate from high school, you're gonna need a job. So that school gave me a trade. Shout out to William E. Grady High School in Brooklyn, all right, over there in Brighton Beach. But it gave me a trade, and the trade that I had was electrical. I was training to be an electrician, and I really didn't really understand. I just, I was just going where God was taking me,
Yeah.
and it was just the best decision. A lot of friends of mine went to a lot of amazing schools. I think this was the right path for me because it gave me the mindset I needed for life in
Yeah.
general. So, shout out to, where you can get the education from. It can stop at a high school degree, it can stop at a college degree, it can stop at a master's or PhD. But most of the millionaires I know today, they haven't graduated. That's just me. I don't know anybody, but
Yeah.
just adding that.
So I'm curious, right? Growing up inner city in New York, in Brooklyn to be exact,
That's right.
during the '90s, I can only assume how many negative role models. It's not like hip hop has the most positive message either. So and like you had a lot of music,
Yeah.
culturally, a lot of these influences. I think so. to kind of touch on my life a little bit, I think one of the best things that happened to me is growing up in the hood, and
Mm,
because I was able to see both sides. Now, I never dabbled with anything, right, or mess,
mm,
but like I knew everyone that was. I knew all the people that were doing the things that I never ended up doing. I was
mm,
always within arm's reach. I
yeah,
think there's a lot of power and perspective. And a lot of people is like, oh, I would never do this. It's like, well, have you ever been in a position to do that? Right. It's easy to talk from when you're looking down, right? But it's like when you're in the thick of it, it's like, and you have some of your friends going down wrong paths in real time, and like you're trying to do your
oh
own
yeah,
thing and not get
oh yeah,
drawn into that. It's tough. So like, what was that like, especially in high school and middle school and stuff like that? We're impressionable. I don't think, I mean, some people may say like, oh, they're not, but like, no matter how hard-headed and stubborn some kids may be, they're all impressionable. They just get put on a bit more of a front, I feel. But it's like, I thank God that I was able to see that
mm,
some of the like colder side and harsh side, the harsh realities of this world has to offer at an
yeah,
early age. Because I feel like it makes you like you're not as naive going into the real world when you see someone like I said, people selling drugs, people doing this, people not making out, people getting locked up. You
mm,
see some of that stuff, and it's like,
yeah,
well, you don't want to end up like that, but it's
yeah,
also hard not to end up like that when everyone around you
mm,
is somewhat somehow affiliated in some way, whether either they're in
yeah,
it or they know someone that's all in it. And so like, how
yeah,
was it like for you trying
mm,
to navigate life
yeah,
in your younger years while also not getting too caught it too deep
right,
with the wrong crowd?
yeah, yeah. I'm smiling
Yeah,
because I can still feel it. I can
yeah,
still feel it, because I was very fortunate that I did grow up in a neighborhood where it was had its rough edges, but I know I learned later it could have been a whole lot worse, right?
yeah,
So I it was tough because
yeah,
I had to. I grew up in the hood, right?
yeah,
And I also went to private school,
yeah,
so I had to wear a green blazer, gray pants. And why is that funny? Huh? Yeah, I had to wear green blazer, gray pants, a tie, a green tie, right, to match the blazer and a white shirt. Okay. And of course, I had to wear shoes. Okay.
yeah,
So these were hard bottom shoes, the ones that slide without ice, like without snow,
yeah,
without, yeah, it just slides, would never not wet. Right.
yeah,
Um, and this was, this was my attire on a daily basis. So I had to, not only just like walk past my friends, my peers that I lived with, I also had to still get to school, walk through other neighborhoods, and surpass those challenges. Which is, look at this guy, or whatever the case is. It's
hmm,
just an easy target. So I had to be very strategic.
you got to
On
keep your head on a swivel.
got to keep your head on a swivel. Got to move fast. Don't look afraid. Just be determined on where I'm going. And if something does change my course, then just recalibrate. Don't
Hmm.
hesitate. Just recalibrate,
Yeah,
because thinking is weakness, right? You already got to just know how to respond.
yeah,
And then you add, I was a pretty good kid, no different than I am as a grown man, but a pretty good kid. Had the right parentage, had the right neighbors, I would say. It's just that we were where we were,
hmm,
and then we're coming from a Caribbean background, from the likes of Jamaica. This was our first neighborhood per se, so it was raw. It was very raw, and I think there was a, a, a sociology. Sorry, I'm taking a call is ringing. Um, that's a client. Um, but yeah, there's also a sociology development of it as well, because we don't know the neighborhood. We don't know the norms. We don't know the cultures. We're
hmm,
just kind of like thrown in the pot and then watch it stir.
yeah. No,
Yep.
100%. All right, so
Mhm.
to fast forward a little bit, so you finished high school. You said you finished with this
Yeah.
trade, and
Yeah.
then from there, where did your journey take
Yeah.
you? Because you said like, hey, like you didn't really know what you were kind of doing, but like you kind of went along with it.
Yeah.
So from there, Where
Yeah.
did your journey progress?
My journey was to go forward with this electrician business. I'm going to join the local. I'm gonna. I'm not sure money. I'm not thinking about money. I'm just thinking about just being able to support myself. So join the local. I want to join the local, which had a 2 year wait. So
Wow.
I said, you know what? I'm going to school. I can
Yeah.
grad. I can have an associate's degree in 2 years, and who knows? Maybe I'll just finish, right? So I get into school, and I'm working at a library. And this library they had me on for like 3 months or so, and then they laid me off. And then they called me back when they received a designation from Bill Gates, okay, to receive computers. And these computers, they were not really much today, right? Just
Mm.
Windows, Word, Excel, a lot of games. Um, but I took it upon myself when they brought me back um, to learn these computers, and then over time, I trained myself up to start giving classes on how to get a job for people in the neighborhood so they can use these computers. So Word, Excel, PowerPoint, the
Yeah.
entire Microsoft Office suite became my training practice that I gave to the community.
So like,
So
well, so when you were thinking about this idea, so you,
yeah,
you got fired, you got laid off, you came
yeah,
back, you
mm,
started working on these things. The inner child
yeah.
came back, trying to reverse engineer everything, trying to
That's
figure
right.
things out. And
That's
then,
right.
at what point did you decide to like start teaching, and like what happened around that time period? Because
Mm,
I feel like a lot of times, like
mm,
sometimes you're teaching people who may be more successful than you,
mm,
maybe more so, because I'm in a kind of in a similar situation, at least not right now, but like I was when I first started teaching. It's like I started teaching realtors social media. Now I just happen to be a third of the age of most realtors when I first stopped back 2 years ago, and so it's like they're more successful than me, but they don't know tech. And so it's like there's a lot of imposter syndrome when I first got into teaching that I had to overcome. So like when
absolutely.
you first started teaching, like who were you teaching? Where was it like adults, parents, was it people in the
Yeah.
school? Where you just your peers? Like
Yeah.
and then what was like your mindset getting into it? How were you able
Hmm.
to if you had to overcome
Mm,
things, what did you have to overcome when you
mm.
first started teaching other people?
Yeah, I didn't really think about. I just thought about. I guess my goal was to learn the tools that were free to me, which was, obviously the books, and then you also
Mhm.
having the computers there. I really didn't have a direction. I was just like, you know what? If I learn this, then it'll make me more valuable to the library. And even, I'm just curious. Even I just want to know. I like knowing stuff. Okay, I
Yeah.
like being the guy. I want to be the
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a guy, right? Like I, I got a guy for you, right? That's
Yeah.
me. I want to be that guy. Okay. So I went to, in pursuit of that, learning Word and Excel. And I was in college at the time. So I had college work study. It wasn't really a college work study program, but it was more like my college work study where I was able to go to school and, in the afternoons, be able to manage these computers. But when I saw how people responded, when I started doing things like, hey, we're going to do resumes, and I'm going to teach you how to create your own resume on Microsoft Word. The response that I got was just so overwhelming. I mean, like the lines were just out the door. Like,
Damn.
and I only did it one day a week. So as a result, people started getting jobs. They started learning how to use computers, and it actually allowed people to sustain themselves and take care of their families. Little did I know. And it didn't come to full fruition for me until I started seeing people say things like, "Hey, man, I just want to thank you, man. I was able to get a job." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" They're like, "No, Duane. Like, I don't know anything." And when you sat down and you ran these training classes on how to do a mail merge, or how to how to add rows, delete rows, do formulas. Like I was able to go into an interview, unbeknownst to me, Duane, and get the job. I didn't know that would be useful, but they would ask me, "Do I have any computer skills?" And I would be like, "Well, I got this guy, named Duane, this good-looking guy, right? I'll say,
Yeah,
right,
yeah. Throw that
named
in there. Slip
Duane."
that in there.
Yeah, so they were able to and it was just remarkable. So with that information, my peers, my buddies, and I, who were training people how to use these computers, we were thinking to ourselves like, okay, maybe we should think much bigger. Maybe this is more.
Yeah,
And we started putting our resumes out there into the business world. And my first job, maybe maybe like 9 months into this role,
yeah,
was on Wall Street because of this role. This role got me my first job on Wall Street, working at a hedge firm and supporting traders because apparently they don't know their formulas either. I don't know. I'm just saying, right? But it was remarkable. It was a remarkable experience.
yeah. That's so dope because like you mentioned that you didn't really have any direction. I think a lot of times people they try to look too far out ahead and they get stuck when they can't find anything, can't see anything, and people want to have it all figured out, and
They do.
sometimes it's like just taking action. The analogy I used an analogy before, but it's like I feel like my life has kind of been similar, where it's like I feel like I'm driving on a cloudy, foggy highway, right? And it's raining, and I can't see but 5 feet in front of me. I'm still driving. I'm still driving, and the more I drive, the more the clouds start to clear, and then
Mm,
an opportunity pops up, and it's like, all right, let me go down
yes,
this, and like, oh, a sign that says turn here, and I go down
that's
that
right.
sign, but it's like from what I'm finding, like, and this is like over the past like 3.5, 4 years, which is not a long time, but like
Yeah.
that's like almost a quarter of my life. I just spent like the last few years trying to just figure things out, right? And when I came out
Mm,
of college, I mean, not out of high school, like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't really think I wanted to work corporate,
mm,
but I was an entrepreneur at the time, so it's like that. I went to school, right? That was the what I was kind of told to do on the traditional track,
yeah.
and then pandemic happened, right? And then like I was super involved in school, I had a great time, and then but I was like, all right, I started taking my classes online. Then I started reading. Boom. Now want to
Mm,
get into real estate. I tried to get into investing.
wow.
That didn't work out. Then I got into my license. That didn't work out. I started
Mm,
teaching, started podcasting along the way.
yeah.
The podcast is still going, of course, but the social media classes turned that into agency. That didn't work out. Real estate as an agent didn't work out either, right? Then I started teaching AI, and it's like the more and more I progressed, but I had you ask me like, hey, what did I want to do? It's like, man, I don't know. Like I was just doing. Like I was
Just
just
doing it.
seeing opportunities. I'm like, all right, let me
Yeah.
jump on it. And
Yeah.
I think that solves a lot of problems. Like, not not if you don't know where you want to go. Like I wasn't the kid like, hey, I want to be a doctor. Right? I didn't know what I was. I was
Mm,
worried about video games, Pokemon, Mario Kart, GameCube. Like that's what I was worried about. And it's like, but as a now being an adult, right? It's like even now, like this past quarter, right? You're recording right now in December, right? It's like this past quarter has been so good to me clarity wise. I'm starting to figure out like where I want to take my business in
mm,
2025. And it's like,
uh,
so I'm still getting more and more clarity. And do I
yeah.
know what this business will look like in 5 years? No. Do I know what it look like in 3 years? No.
Mm,
I'm just focused on what's in front of me right now. And if
mm,
an
mm,
opportunity opens, I'll
mm,
pivot as necessary, right? Or if something doesn't work out, I'll pivot as necessary. So like, I love that how in your story you were saying that you didn't really have any vision for like what it would look like, but you just started doing, and then that led to opportunity. Then you got ended up leading to by helping other people get a job, ended up helping you get a job, and so then you start teaching traders, and then I know you spent a large portion of like your professional career in like IT. So like,
mm,
what was that like? What were some of the lessons
mm.
that you learned along the way? Was that hedge fund like the you stayed there your whole time, your whole tenure, or was like did you bounce around?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that opportunity was so groundbreaking for me. I think they were just more so impressed with my tenacity to learn,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave me a shot. And let's say um, they likely had other applicants who just didn't work out. So I think they were trying something different, and they really needed someone to fill that gap. So
Mm-hmm.
when I took the role, I mean, I didn't know their systems. I mean, coming from the library to Wall Street
Yeah.
is a whole paradigm shift, right? But I think we worked together, and it wasn't the best solution for me, to be honest with you. It didn't quite work out, right? But um, in the 9 months I spent doing this, um, working there, I mean, I absorbed so much information.
Hmm.
that by the time my tenure ended there, I mean, I was highly pursued. So it
Mm.
wasn't hard for me at all to get a role almost anywhere.
Yeah.
So I just started, popping around here and there. It wasn't until maybe around 2010 I was working with a gym. You might know them, New York City Sports Club, and
Yeah, I used to go there.
used to go there. Okay,
Yeah, but they
yeah,
closed
which
down the
one?
one locally. There's a one here in Stamford on the west side behind ShopRite that I used to go to. It's literally like maybe
Oh,
like
really?
4 or 5 minutes from my house. I used to go there
Really?
all the time. Yeah, they had a basketball court. They
Oh,
had the whole yeah, I used to go there all the time. Then it
yeah.
closed down. I was
Okay.
like, damn. And then I had to
Yeah.
find a new gym.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I worked there in their IT department for a few years, and
Yeah.
I remember when I took the role, this was more like a fun role for me. And I can get to go to the gym for free. Um, they don't have like big systems. It's a gym, They just
Yeah.
want to make sure their check-in desk works. They want to make sure some other things happen, and
Yeah, the
that's it.
Wi-Fi is
I'm like,
working. Yeah.
I could do that. And it was I did it for 6 years. It was easy peasy. Um, but until when I started like growing a family, I realized okay, it's time to pivot again, and
Mm.
I took a job with an integrator known as AlphaServe, and I stayed with them for about 6 years. During the 6 year tenure I was with them, I got my certifications in Cisco Voice over IP. Um, so that allowed me to, withhold uh, the behest of the name of a Cisco engineer. Um, and with that, it just allowed me that just took me all over the country, setting up systems. Um, I had a lot of high profile clients I can't mention, but it was pretty phenomenal that just changing my mindset, saying, okay, I'm going to go after these exams, and upon passing them, get this opportunity that is so unique. I was able to get the income that I wanted. I bought a home. I was able to see myself. I bought 3 homes while I was in that role, um, and now I'm in Charlotte. And it wasn't until because of the pandemic, just like you started to shift and make decisions.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope how you were able to, continue even later on in your career, find
Hmm.
more and more opportunities to grow within your career. And then so talk to us. So you ended up moving during the pandemic, and now tell us like this is what we were waiting for. Where did the shift to like, hey, I don't want to just invest. I want to actually get in the field and start practicing real estate. Like, how did that come about? Where did the shift start for anyone who's listening? I kind of am familiar with the story a little bit. We talked, but like for anyone
Yeah,
who hasn't heard the story yet,
yeah,
how did this shift start coming about? Like, hey, I
yeah,
don't want to just be a bystander investor, getting property.
mm,
I actually want to be,
yeah,
in the field
right,
actively doing this and making this a
yeah,
living and not just source of
yeah,
passive income.
yeah, yeah. So let me just say, man, I had no sales experience, like zero. All right, let's just start there. All right,
Yeah.
I was a keyboard junkie.
Yeah.
Okay, zero sales experience. Um, I went everywhere with my laptop, and yeah, I even had a hotspot just in case something went down. Right, so the shift came for me when everything started shutting down, things started slowing down. People were just like not doing business, and I said, okay, this is not sustainable. I had a very nice income for myself, and I thought, being in the Carolinas, which is the plan, um, it was to, upon having twin daughters, right?
Yeah.
Back in 2020, had twin daughters, and calling Charlotte home, I thought, man, I'm gonna save a ton of money. And no, I didn't, right? Everything went up, as you already know, right? I
Yep.
was able to, yeah, 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 that's exactly what happened. Pandemic happens, and then I get my home, fortunately, in the right time, and then the market just takes off, right?
Yeah.
And then everything else kind of rate goes up with it. The taxes go up, food goes up, everything now is coming to a head where you're like, man, I just left New York and moved, I don't know, 10 hours away, and strangely, it still feels like New York. Like, how does
Yeah.
that work? Yeah. So for me, I saw the writing on the wall. That was a writing on the wall experience. We're all at home. We're 9 months in. I'm like, man, they're still sending me paychecks, but I think there's no way they can sustain this.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? I need to pivot again and find something that I can do, and maybe, just maybe, right? I I can make it work for me, but I just don't want to be caught flat-footed.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, I'm gonna. I worked with my. I remember my real estate agent. We had such a great time. I think it was the most fun I've ever had giving somebody my money. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he did get paid by the seller, right?
Yeah.
But like, it was such a phenomenal experience.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sean Gerald. Um, and when we closed, it was like I was losing a friend. I remember going, man, I guess this is it. you know, uh, wow. Well, I guess I'll be seeing you. And I didn't want to be weird because I don't like weird either, right? But it was like
Yeah.
it was something else. It was a real, real awesome experience. And I said, man, like I thought more about it. I was like, you know what, man, I think I should get my license. And you
Yeah.
just never know. And um, you know, ended up taking the exam and on the third try, passing, and you know, picking up the phone and saying, hey, look, I just passed my license, and what should I do now? It
Yeah.
was that experience. Yeah.
That's so dope. I also passed my third try. It was so annoying. I failed the first two times by like 2 points. I was so mad because I had to drive over, and I didn't have a car at the time. I
Oh
was
man.
so mad, and I had to go to Queen. Nah, was it in Queens?
Yeah.
Nah, it was a bit of it was a little while away, man. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness. And so
Yeah.
the third try, I passed it. I
Uh-huh.
remember it was the day
Mm,
after my birthday, if I'm not mistaken. It was either the day after my
mm,
birthday or my birthday weekend.
mm.
This is back in
Yeah.
2021. And as I said, I didn't have a ride, so I was pretty much um I had to go freaking take the bus and all that stuff.
You remember
And
it vividly.
bro, cause I remember because I had to work that same day,
Yeah.
so I passed the exam. Then I had to take the bus and train back home, and then go clock into my restaurant job, and then work a full shift. And so
Mm,
that was
man,
I remember it just being a long day. I was so happy
I
because like
bet.
once you pass, and like you don't have to finish the rest of
Yeah,
the
you do.
exam. And so like yeah, it ended. I was like, thank the Lord. Oh
Man.
my goodness. And then
You said 2 points, right?
yeah,
God.
2 points the
Yeah.
first time. The first time I passed, I think I had to get a 70 on each. I had like a 69 on
Mm,
each, and the second time I had like a 69, like in a 68. I was
I
like,
got you.
what
Yeah.
on earth?
Yeah.
And so
What on earth? Yeah.
then the third time around, mind you, that time I was working two jobs, so
Mm.
I was doing about like 70 hours a week between like K Jewelers and my restaurant job, and I remember I would be at K Jewelers, and I used to bring my laptop, I mean my iPad, and I would put it in front of like the work iPad so that I could read the ebook and
It's
study,
right. Right.
but like make it look like I was actually doing my
Yeah.
working on the job. And so like I used
Right.
to like do whatever I could to, because I never studied in high school. So like, and then in college I learned that I kind of had to study, but then with this real estate stuff, I passed the class. I passed the full transparency. I cheated on that freaking class exam.
Mm-hmm.
They try to catch us on Zoom and like have us like look on a computer, and I just had the book by my side. I had set up the
Oh
camera so they couldn't
man.
see it, and then I started working, and so like 3 months had passed. So like by the time I finished the class and then took the actual exam for the PSI, I already forgotten a lot of it. And I never
Mm,
ended up using most of that stuff anyways, which is so annoying. Like
mm.
so,
Yeah.
but anyways, long story short, I passed it on my third try.
There it is.
Similar.
There it is. Yeah, man. Good for
And
you.
so, for anyone who doesn't know, Sean is a great guy. I met him. He was at the breakfast mastermind with Dwayne and I and Dana and a couple
Mm.
and oh my goodness, why am I so bad at his name? I got his face in my brain. President
Oh.
of
Oh yeah.
Life Jersey,
Yeah, yeah,
Chris.
yeah.
There we go.
Chris Delgado. There we
Yeah,
go. Hmm.
there we go. So but yeah, so you had a great time with Sean. Ended up getting your license,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
kudos to you. 'Cause one thing you mentioned, like you didn't want to get caught flat-footed. I
No.
think taking that initiative, taking that action. I think a lot of
Mm,
people try to wait for an opportunity to come,
mm,
and sometimes you just have to. Life doesn't always reward the smartest or the best. Sometimes life just rewards the person. who takes action, right? The person who's
Yes.
the first to take action, the person who doesn't wait on the fence until they
Mm,
have it figured out, just like jumping into things, right?
mm,
I was talking to this one guy. I mean, I had this one analogy. This is why I love podcasts. You know, you come up with some smart stuff every now and then, right? I was talking to him, and I was like, "Yo, life is kind of like going up a staircase where you can't see the next step until you step forward. And so if you just look over, it looks as if you're about to
mm.
fall, but as you take that step, it appears beneath your foot, and you're like, okay, I'm good. And then you have to keep on progressing. And so
That's right.
you ended up getting your license. You called up Sean,
Mm, yeah.
um, and then how that conversation go? Because as I said, you had no sales experience. You've been in
None.
IT your whole life, and so like, how that conversation go?
I was like, "Hey, Sean, I just passed my license, man." He goes, "Oh, man, that's great." I said, "Sean, I want to be on join your team." He said, "No." I said, "Oh, okay, that's wow. Did you tell me to give you a call?" He said, "Yeah, I told you to call me, but yeah, I've made some changes, and but Dwayne, I want you to get the best exposure you can get right now. You know, shop around some other firms, get acquainted with some sales skills, and then
Yeah,
give me a call back. You know, because I'll be honest with you, Dwayne, I'm busy.
yeah,
I'm just not going to be able to pour into you the way you need to right now. And you know what?
yeah,
I respect that. I thought that was a fair assessment. So
yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and for anyone that's listening, it takes a lot to be a real estate agent. I thought I was gonna be coming in rookie of the year, selling houses left and right, and so it's like, yeah, there's a lot that it takes to get your business off the ground, especially when you're coming to a place where you don't really have connection like that. You said you're from over here up north, right? You're going into the Carolinas, so like your sphere is already now super tiny, small outside of your
Super
family,
tiny.
and
That's
then
right.
like we're in a pandemic, so it's not like you can go socialize and go hug people or meet new
Exactly.
people. And so like
Ah!
yeah, everyone's 6 feet away. And so then from there, where
Yeah.
was lifestyle open at that time yet in the Carolina or
No,
no?
it was not. No, we were at some other dwarf firms.
Yeah,
I call them dwarf because in
they're
what
not like the
we
Keller
are
Williams and
doing,
Coldwell and
yeah,
EXP.
like that. Right, right,
Yeah,
right. So
the mom and pop brokerages.
the mom and pop broker. Well, you know what? I'll take a step back. I'll say it was the first one was Keller. The second
Okay.
was North Group, which was a 100% firm, and
Yeah,
then EXP, and then I went back to North Group, which was a 100% firm. Um, and the reason why I found myself hopping around so frequently was because I felt like I was missing something. Um,
yeah,
I'm watching what some others are doing, and then there's also an air of impatience as well.
yeah, yeah,
So I need to try. I want to do transactions. I have a family. I got some money, fortunately, in my savings. But my wife at the time, she was still working. So fortunately, we were doing okay, and she had a pretty
yeah,
solid salary. But I knew that it was not going to be, long term sustainable for her to just carry us. So
yeah,
trying to get my feet wet, but I found like something was missing, and then I think that was sales, sales act. I don't find the right word, but it had to do with sales, right? Someone who can articulate sales to me in a way that
yeah,
will allow me to make money not over 4 to 6 months. Which is what every agent and most agents were being told. But I want to make money today.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like, what can I do right now? Right, that can change the trajectory of my financial lifestyle. So um, that encouraged me because I wasn't getting it to pop around different places. So it wasn't until I got with Sean and Sean started like recruiting a team that I started getting more training with him, just watching how he works. And by the time we were like, okay, we're gonna go gun ho with his firm, Queen City House Hunters, that is when he was approached by Lifestyle.
that's
Mm,
dope. That's
yeah.
dope. So for anyone that doesn't know, Lifestyle, they've blown up. I don't know when they were founded or when you guys, but man, you guys are at almost what 3,100 or 3,300 something like that agent count
Yeah,
across 5 different states. You got a brokerage now in Dominican
mm,
Republic, so now you're going
I
cross
know.
country, international. So
I know.
it's crazy
Crazy.
what you guys have been doing, and the first
Mm-hmm.
time I got to meet Sean was at the President's Day event that you were in at. I mean, told you when we were at the mastermind, but for anyone listening, I spoke at an event in February. So it's so dope how that played out because I was already going to come to Miami for this speaking engagement. There's, Grant Cardone.
Sure.
So like the 10x stages, it's like one of the
Mm-hmm.
sister companies or whatever. Each year they do a competition called the Great American Speak Off, and so out of like 6,000 applicants, the top 125 got to compete down in Miami. And so I was already headed down to Miami. And then at the time, Dana had just started working with me one on one. And so Dana had called me up and I was like, hey, John, like I'm doing this thing, and in February it's gonna be on President's Day, yada yada yada. Would love for you to have you speak there on AI. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, what day? She was like, President's Day. I'm like, what day is that? She was like, I think it was like the 18th or the 19th. I was like, no way, I'm leaving for Miami the day after. I just booked my flight a little bit earlier and I hadn't booked my flights yet. I just set my flight for a day earlier and I'll pop out and do my thing and I'll come support. And so that's how I ended up getting connected with like lifestyle and got to see the community and what you guys have going on. So it was a really dope event. And
Mm-hmm.
so then you ended up Sean ended up getting approached by lifestyle, and now you have
That's
a
right.
big role there. So what does life look like nowadays? What are you up to? You're still an agent practicing, but you also have
Yeah.
a large part of helping grow lifestyle out in the Carolinas. So like, what does your day to
Mm-hmm.
day look like now?
Man, well, knowing how to sell, right? Which is came a a long way from when I started in 2020. I would say that the bulk of my business comes from cold calling.
Mm,
So far, I mean, like I've been able to. I think I've had my best year in 2024 yet. As a matter of fact, I think I probably even undersold myself.
mm-hmm.
I could have done even more, but I wanted to set expectations for myself that I can agree upon, and not beat myself up on for coming up short.
Yeah,
So I was able to do that, and I even so much even added into the pipeline for next year. So
yeah,
um, this year I kind of just wanted to do like 20 deals. I ended up you know I ended up doing about 20. I ended up doing about 21 deals.
wow,
And then adding into the pipeline for next year some bigger deals, some deals that I'm even surprised I'm even using these numbers. Like
yeah.
now I'm having $1 million conversations. Which is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Like coming from like growing up inner city, like and
Hmm,
then getting into rooms with people who are messing around with big numbers.
hmm,
How like I think that's another thing too. Like just being able to be surrounded with people who are successful and like going out there and getting after it, and like super like have super big visions. It kind of normalizes what you thought was like a dream. Like, oh
hmm.
yeah, we just lifted a 2.5. 2.5 what?
What?
Million? Oh, 2.5. Like you said it like it was casual. Like 2.5 like and people just throwing around these numbers like it's regular. And you start getting around these people and then like let's say you just want to make 80K and now you get around these people, yeah, I just got 80 from the last listing I closed, right? And it's like, damn, like am I thinking too small? And some people for me, I know people are, different people view it differently. For me, I view it as like, man, I could be doing more. Like this is regular, and like the stuff that I want to achieve is obtainable. Not only is it obtainable, it's easy. Well, I would say it's simple. It's just like hanging around with like successful people really has like expanded my mind to
Hmm,
see what's really possible
hmm.
and what we're truly capable of, because I feel
Yeah,
like a lot of the ceilings, I think all of our ceilings actually, are also built by our own hands. It's just
sure.
like we're always having to break through the ceiling when it's like we also built the ceiling. So if we just don't build any in the first place, and that's where like talking to people, as I said, like yourself, talking to people like Sean, talking to people like Dana, who are doing big numbers, it's like it just normalizes like, hey, like
Hmm.
we're all
Yeah,
go-getters. This is
yeah.
what we should be doing, right? This is not like some dream. This is what we should be. We're go-getters. We have big visions, and then now
Hmm,
now we have to think even bigger, right? And it's like for me, it's motivating, and that's why I love to having these podcasts too. As I said, you just
hmm.
talk to so many people, and like the extreme, the
Mm.
extraordinary starts to become like, oh yeah, that's what we're supposed to do, and it makes it so much more I feel more so much more obtainable.
And you talked a little bit about imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah,
And oftentimes we are being the person that we're wanting to become, right?
yeah.
And then in reality, your bank account doesn't reflect that, right? Right? Let's keep it real,
Yeah,
right? All right. And then when you start learning on what you're actually going to do to make it, like that, you learn quickly that the how is not important.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like how you make it is really not important anymore, as long as you keep showing up. And I
Hmm.
think for me, that was my biggest breakthrough. I did a lot of the things I was told by other agents. Duane, I see you doing things. I see you. I see you. I see you. But it wasn't showing up in a bank account. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't until like I had the epiphany of, well, you know what? If this is the agent I want to be, right, then I have to do the things that no one else wants to do.
Hmm.
Okay. No one wants to get on a call and get hung up on, told to beat it, get cussed out. No one wants to, see someone eating their pancakes or having
Hmm.
drinks, celebrating a birthday and go over and say, "Oh man, I know you guys are celebrating your birthday, but here's my card. Maybe you want to buy a house." Like these are the things that they don't want to do, and that was my epiphany. And
Yeah.
the more I leaned into those things, the more it put me in conversations that I just didn't think I would. I just don't think I would have.
Hmm.
So, what that sounds like is, you end up in conversations like, I'm going to say just the last 45 days for me have been like, you know, met someone while out and about. I think in Charlotte, over the summer, we had, well, over the, I want to say the summer, like late summer, we
Yeah.
had our 1 year anniversary here
Yeah.
in Charlotte. And after that event, went to another event, right? To kind of like, wind down and hang out. And, you do things like walk the room and give everyone your card that you don't know.
Yeah.
I had two meetings out of that, and these were all $1 million conversations.
Yeah.
Um, then you get on the phones a few days later, and you meet somebody else. He gives you five listings, maybe
Yeah.
six. He gives you six listings. Um, and then your phone rings. Now things start happening because life is reciprocal, right? If you pour
Yeah.
in, something comes back, and next thing you know, like you're having another $1 million conversation. Like it's and these are not things. I'd be honest with you, I did not
Yeah.
fathom would happen. I just said, you know what, I'm just going to keep showing up, and I'm
Hmm.
just going to speak my talk as the person that I want to be. And I know a lot of agents who are watching this or entrepreneurs who are watching this, they've heard this before, but it's real. It's
Yeah.
real. Manifesting that conversation, that identity is what was the biggest turning point for
That's dope, man. Dwayne, I feel like we could probably keep chopping it up for at least another hour, man. Uh, where can we find you? Where can we connect with you if we want to get more, what you have going on, and maybe even talk about, joining lifestyle?
me. Yeah. Duane Clarke. You can find me down here in Charlotte, North Carolina. My email address is sold by Duane 8, the number 8. I chose that purposely because I believe in the infinite value, right, that we all have. Okay.
Hmm.
So sold by Duane, the number 8 at gmail.com. My uh, web address is Carolina Homes. I'm sorry, Mellow Carolina Homes .com. And you can also find me at 704-881-6860. I'm also on all the social media outlets, Facebook, uh, uh, Instagram, TikTok, and so forth. So, yeah, thank you again, John. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Now it's time for our rapid fire round. Right, same 5 questions, my lightning round. Right, I ask every single guest. Question number one is: what is the most impactful lesson you've learned in life?
Keep showing up,
What is the most admirable trait a person can have?
being likable.
If you had to change someone's life but only had one book, which would you recommend?
Hmm. Think and Grow Rich.
What is the legacy you're working on leaving behind?
I want to leave behind money. Money, yes, money. But most importantly, I want to leave behind the legacy that hard work pays off, and it's not also about. It's not just about money, but money does let the room feel bigger. So I want to make sure my descendants have that.
And for anyone that wants to embark on their walk to wealth, what is the very first step you recommend they take?
Hmm. Ask for help. Ask for help, and don't stop asking for it until you get it.
Amen. Dwayne, thank you so much for hopping on today. Thank you so much for taking some time out your day. I know real estate can get super hectic, man. So I appreciate you showing up. And we had some tech difficulties, but we persevered, we pushed through,
We
and had a
did.
fire conversation, man. I appreciate you hopping on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate you, big dog.